Hello, everyone. Happy New Year. I hope you're doing well and healthy. I'm CARANOG, and I'll be talking about my part in syntax. Now, it comes to the history of syntax, we often talk about Noam Chomsky's syntactic structures back in 1957 when it became a principal or critical view on the theorizing of syntax. However, the history of syntax goes hundreds of years before that. I actually read this book called 200 Years of Syntax, and it was honestly a difficult read as it was complicated and there are a lot of things included there. So I will be saying some things here from my researches and from that book, which I deemed are important and that should be shared with everyone. So let's start in 1660. General and Rational Grammar, the Portrait Grammar, written primarily by Antoine Arnauld and edited by Claude Lancelot, which appeared in 1660. Actually, this portrait grammar is a pioneering work in the philosophy of language. The important feature of the view of this language is the conception of the linguistic operation as phonics display of operations of mind, which are conception, reasoning, and judgment. Sentence here, or the term sentence here, is said as proposition in the portrayal grammar. Sentence is by necessity composed of subject, predicate, and of copula. The structure of any proposition has always to be analyzed as consisting of subject, verb to be, and predicate. This view of language believes that language is the direct reflection of the thought processes that we have, and therefore there should be a single, most natural way on how we can express those thoughts or those ideas. This view or this model, logical model of language, has been accepted by a lot of people or by many, but it has also been rejected by some. And those people would like to be free from the portrayal grammar or from the logical model of syntax. And this is the reason why the portrayal grammar has been abandoned in the second half of the 19th century, although some grammarians still followed or still borrowed the concept of copula theory. So here, some grammarians also tried to replace the logical model of syntax with a psychological one. Thus, the rise and fall of psychologistic syntax. Notions such as the psychological subject and predicate were worked out, which were opposed to the corresponding logical ones. Here in our psychological subject is referred to as the topic in the sentence, and the complement in the sentence as the comment that there is. However, there was no agreement on the definition of the psychological categories in this model or in this view of language. So it was also dropped in the first part or in the first decade of the 20th century. Syntax is the study of the principles and processes by which sentences are constructed in particular languages. This was said by Noam Chomsky, which means that its goal is the construction of a grammar that can be viewed as a device of some sort for producing the sentences of the language under analysis. The outcome of syntactic investigations should be a theory of linguistic structure. Hence, this is the reason why when we search about syntax, it is almost always referring to the rules of the language. So, among the many generative theories of linguistics, the Chomskyan theories are first one here that I will be mentioning, transformational grammar or TG. Original theory of generative syntax laid out by Chomsky in Syntactic Structures in 1957. So it has what we call deep structure, which refers to the concepts, thoughts, ideas, and feelings, and the surface structure, which refers to the words, language we use to represent the deep structure. Actually, here in TG, we also have what we call transformational process, which is the link between deep structure and the surface structure. And there are also transformational rules like adjunction, substitution, deletion, but we will not be talking about those. The other one here is the government and binding theory, which is a revised theory in the tradition of TG developed mainly by Chomsky again in the 1970s and 1980s. So as you can see here, this is just a revised theory. So deep structure and surface structure, you can still see them there. And then what we have what we call PF and LF, which is PF as phonological form and LF as the logical form. So now let's talk about hearing and speaking syntax. For native speakers, using correct syntax is something that comes naturally. As word order is learned as soon as an infant starts absorbing the language. If you are a native speaker, it is easy for you to identify if something is not right because it will sound weird. They may not be able to tell the exact grammar rule that makes the sentence sound off, but they can tell that there's something wrong with what they are hearing. Now, here we have syntax versus diction and informal versus formal. When we talk about diction, this is the choice of words in a sentence. It is concerned with registers of language, formality level, etc. How about for syntax? This is the arrangement of words in a sentence. It is concerned with the word order, agreement of subject and verb, and etc. Diction is about the style of writing or speaking of someone. That is why it involves the choice of words, while on the other hand, syntax is concerned about how we arrange them and whether they are spoken or written. Now, why do we have formal and informal here? When we are writing something like an academic paper, something that we have to pass in school, we often use a high level of diction that's formal. But if we are just having a casual conversation, then it is informal as we are just using a low level of diction. We are not really choosing difficult words when we are casually conversing with our peers or with our family. So let's take, for example, this one. He found the silence intolerably irksome. Or the other one here is he didn't like the silence. So if you will observe, there is an observable change in the choice of words that we have in the first sentence compared to the second sentence for the formal. Would you care to explain the reasoning behind your decision to leave the gathering early? And the informal one is, why'd you leave the party so soon? So here, the formal diction is when you choose the words that are polite and proper as well. They are most of the time longer, and we can also observe that here. For syntax, the incorrect one, while watching a movie, people who text on their phone are very annoying. The correct one is people who text on their phone while watching a movie are very annoying. So there's a problem in the modifier here. There is a misplaced modifier, as the correct use of syntax would include placing of words or and phrases in the right order. So I'll be sharing this by Jim Miller. It is essential to understand that the differences exist not because spoken language is a degradation of written language, but because any written language, whether English or Chinese, results from centuries of development and elaboration by a small number of users. So now let's talk about syntax rules. What do the syntax rules do? In English language or in the English language, there are some specific rules a writers must follow for proper syntax. A single sentence can be rearranged in a number of ways to produce new sentences while still remaining grammatically correct. Although the meaning of the sentence will remain basically the same, varying syntax can affect the mood and tone of a piece of writing. And now, since we are talking about syntax rules, the next reporter or my next group mate will be sharing with us some syntax rules. Thank you for listening.
Good day, Dr. Gordonas. Good day, everyone. I am REYLEE ARIEGA and I am here to discuss syntactic rules. Before we proceed with the topic, let us first have a recap of the definition of syntax. Syntax, as defined by the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, refers to the way in which linguistic elements are put together to form constituents. It is the arrangement of words and phrases to create well-formed sentences in a language. Syntax is basically about what word comes before and after another word. In other words, it's part of the larger subject of grammar. It is often an issue in poetry, and it's usually discussed in connection with diction. That is, the poet's choice of words. Now that we are done with the recap, let's have a short activity. For our activity entitled, "What's this?" share your idea and interpretation of the statement to be presented after this slide. You have a minute to jot down your ideas and put them in a comment section or the chat box. Your time starts now. Time's up! Thank you for participating in our today's activity. Let's discuss the statement presented earlier. Colorless green ideas sleep furiously. I understand that there may be some ideas that are flying in your heads right now, but I'm sad to tell you that this sentence has no discernible meaning. This is a sentence composed by Noam Chomsky in his 1957 book, Syntactic Structures. The book has two editions. First was published in 1957 under Walter de Gruyter or Muta and Company, and the second was published in 2002 in paperback format, then 2009 in PDF format under de Gruyter Muta. Chomsky sought to give an example of a sentence that is grammatically correct, but semantically, it's nonsense. According to Whiteley in 2020, the sentence is correct. It contains perfectly acceptable elements. The adjectives, the noun, and the verb are all positioned correctly. However, it is impossible to discern an understandable meaning within it. Therefore, it serves to demonstrate the difference between syntax and semantics. That's it for our activity. Let us now discuss the syntactic rules. As we go along the discussion, I would like to remind you that if you have questions, please don't hesitate to leave them in the comment section or the chat box. Based on my research, there are numerous references on how many the syntactic rules in exact are. 53, 91, but for today, we will only discuss 5 syntactic rules. Number 1, the subject of a verb is in the nominative case. What is the nominative case? The nominative case is an English grammatical case that is used for a noun or pronoun when it is the subject of a verb. The following are examples for you to understand. The first sentence is, Sharon ate pie. What do you think is the subject of the sentence? The word Sharon, which is a noun. The second sentence is, we walked home. What do you think is the subject of the sentence? The word we, which is a pronoun. Now let's move to the second rule. Number 2, a pronoun must agree with its antecedent in person, number, and gender. This rule is in relation to the pronoun antecedent agreement. which states that a pronoun must agree with its antecedent in three ways: person, number, and gender. Person refers to the quality of being. For you to understand this, let's have an example of an incorrect sentence. If a person wants to succeed in corporate life, you have to know the rules of the game. The phrase "a person," which is colored in light orange, is a third-person antecedent. The word "you," which is colored in rose, is a second-person pronoun. Therefore, there is no person agreement. Although the antecedent and the pronoun agree in number, they do not agree in person. This problem can be remedied in two ways. The first solution is to change the second person singular, you, to a third person singular pronoun. For example, if a person wants to succeed in corporate life, he or she has to know the rules of the game. The second solution is to change the third person singular antecedent, a person, to a second person singular antecedent. For example, if you want to succeed in corporate life, you have to know the rules of the game. Next is the number. Number is the quality that distinguishes between singular and plural. For you to understand this, let's have an example of an incorrect sentence. If anybody wants to succeed in corporate life, they have to know the rules of the game. The word anybody, which is colored in light orange, is a third-person singular antecedent. The word they, which is colored in rose, is a third-person plural pronoun. Therefore, there is no number agreement. Although the antecedent and pronoun agree in person, they do not agree in number. This problem can be remedied in two ways. The first solution is to make the antecedent plural. For example, if people want to succeed in corporate life, they have to know the rules of the game. The second solution is to make the pronoun singular. For example, if anybody wants to succeed in corporate life, he or she has to know the rules of the game. The last is gender. Gender is the quality that distinguishes the entities as masculine or feminine. For you to understand this, let's have an example of an incorrect sentence. If a person wants to succeed in corporate life, he has to know the rules of the game. The phrase "a person," which is colored in light orange, is a third neutral singular antecedent. The word he, which is colored in rose, is a third-person masculine singular pronoun. Therefore, there is no gender agreement. Even though there are person and number agreement between the antecedent and the pronoun, there is no gender agreement. In other words, the language appears to favor one sex over the other. This problem can be remedied in two ways. The first solution is to replace the pronoun he with he or she. For example, if a person wants to succeed in corporate life, he or she has to know the rules of the game. The second solution is to make the entire sentence plural. For example, if people want to succeed in corporate life, they have to know the rules of the game. Number 3. A substantive standing in the predicate, but describing or defining the subject, agrees with the subject in case and is called a predicate nominative. What is a predicate nominative? A predicate nominative is a subject complement, a word or group of words that follows a linking verb or verb phrase such as is, are, was, has been, and can be. It renames, identifies, or defines the subject or subjects. A predicate nominative always takes the form of a noun or pronoun and helps provide information by categorizing the subject in some way. The following are examples for you to understand. The first sentence is, "Stallions are male horses." What are stallions? They are horses. The word horses is the predicate nominative. It identifies stallions. The second sentence is, Sean Connery has been an actor for many years. What has Sean Connery been? He has been an actor. The word actor is a predicate nominative. It identifies Sean Connery. Number 4. A substantive that completes the meaning of a transitive verb is called its direct object and is said to be in the objective case. What is the objective case? The objective case refers to when a noun or pronoun is used as an object. The object may be a direct object, indirect object, or object of a preposition. Under the objective case, we will only discuss two things: direct and indirect objects. The direct object will take place on rule number 4, and the indirect object will take place on rule number 5. What is a direct object? It is a noun or a noun phrase denoting a person or thing that is the recipient of the action of a transitive verb. It is the thing being acted upon. The following are examples for you to understand. The first sentence is, that man struck my dog. What did the man strike? My dog. The word dog is the direct object of the transitive verb struck. The second sentence is, the arrow hit the target. What did the arrow hit? The target. The word target is the direct object of the hit. Let's move to the last rule. Number 5. Some verbs of giving, telling, refusing, and the like may take two objects, a direct object and an indirect object. I've already discussed the direct object on the 4th rule, so let's focus on the indirect object. What is an indirect object? It refers to a noun or a noun phrase referring to someone or something that is affected by the action of a transitive verb. It is the recipient of the direct object. For you to understand the difference between the direct and indirect object, here are the examples. The first column on the table are sentences that only have a direct object. In the second column, there are sentences that have both direct and indirect objects. The first sentence in the first column is, RJ sold his bicycle. Who is the recipient of RJ's act of selling his bicycle? It was John. The completed sentence is in the second column. RJ sold John his bicycle. The second sentence in the first column is, she taught Latin. Who is the recipient of her act of teaching Latin? My children. The completed sentence is in the second column. She taught my children Latin. In summary, here are the syntactic rules that we've discussed. Number 1, the subject of a verb is in the nominative case. Number 2, a pronoun must agree with its antecedent in person, number, and gender. Number 3, a substantive standing in the predicate but describing or defining the subject agrees with the subject in case and is called a predicate nominative. Number 4, a substantive that completes the meaning of a transitive verb is called its direct object and is said to be in the objective case. Number 5, some verbs of giving, telling, refusing, and the like may take two objects, a direct object and an indirect object. This marks the end of our discussion of syntactic rules. If you have questions, please don't hesitate to leave them in the comment section or the chat box. Again, I am REYLEE ARIEGA. Thank you and have a good day.
Hello, good afternoon everyone. Good afternoon classmates. Good afternoon Dr. Gordonas. So I guess I'm the last reporter for our group, number 1 for the topic syntax and semantics. So for us to finish right away, we'll just be having a quick and simple discussion to all of you. So by the way, sorry for the background noise. no, that you will be experiencing as you watch the video presentation. It's the sound of my laptop and also the background noise outside. The children are playing. The children are playing outside. So sorry for that. But then, just like what I've told you earlier, let's start right away. So of course, our topic still is all about syntax, and I am Aaron Jonas Castro. Again, good afternoon to all of us. Good afternoon, classmates, and good afternoon, Dr. Gordones. So the topics that I will be exploring today are types of sentence structures and syntax variations and distinctions. So let's start right away in types of sentence structures. So as we explore the topic here under syntax, I guess we're all familiar with this one. I think since elementary, high school, college, this is being discussed to us. So again, we will be exploring this part of syntax. So we can categorize sentences based on different criteria, and one way to categorize them is based on their structure. So what are the basic structures? What are the types of structures, or what are the types of sentence structure? So first one, we have the simple sentences. So we are all familiar with this one. No? When we say simple sentences, of course, it contains one independent clause. And when we say independent clause, it is a sentence that has a subject and a verb and requires no extra information to understand. It expresses a single idea. So the formula here, simple sentence or simple sentences is equivalent to independent clause. Always remember that. Simple sentence is an independent clause, and independent clause is a simple sentence. Independent clause, it can stand on its own. It is a standalone sentence. So for example here, let's make things simple. I like coffee. Mary hates tea. The earth goes round the sun. So I like coffee. This is a very simple sentence, an independent clause. Also, Mary hates tea. The earth goes round the sun. So next is the background noise. Sorry. So next is the compound sentences. Now it contains two or more independent clauses. So when you explore a particular sentence, when you look at it on its structure and you see that there is two independent clauses on it, that's automatic. That is a compound sentence. So what is the what's the one thing that you what's the other thing that you need to see for us to identify that is a compound sentence? So it should have an independent clause, of course, two independent clauses, and also a coordinating conjunction. It is joined by a conjunction or semicolon. Each of these clauses could form a sentence alone. So again, the formula here, we have the compound sentence is equal to independent clause plus coordinating conjunction plus independent clause. I'll be giving you an example. By the way, so coordinating conjunctions, since we are in elementary, we are familiar with this one, aka fanboys, right? We have for and nor, B for but, over or, Y yet, S for so. So fanboys, when we explore conjunctions, fanboys, that is automatic coordinating conjunction. When we say about the other conjunctions, not under fanboys, that is subordinating conjunctions. So examples here, I like coffee and Mary likes tea. Sophia went to work but John went to the party. I kicked the ball and it hit Tom. So I like coffee and Mary likes tea. I like coffee is a simple sentence, an independent clause. Mary likes tea is also an independent clause, a simple sentence. When we combine them by using coordinating conjunction, so it is a compound sentence, because two simple sentences or two independent clauses being connected by coordinating conjunctions, automatic, that is compound sentences or compound sentence, as well as Sophia went to work but John went to the party. In this case, we use coordinating conjunction but. We connect Sophia went to work and John went to the party. Next one, we have the complex sentences. A complex sentence has one independent clause and one or more dependent clauses. So, one independent clause. So again, independent clause, it is a standalone sentence, a simple sentence. A dependent clause starts with subordinating conjunction or a relative pronoun and contains a subject and verb but does not express a complete thought. So the difference between independent clause is independent clause is independent, while dependent is dependent. It needs a partner. Now, when we say dependent clause, it needs a partner for it to stand alone, for it to have a complete thought. And also, we should remember that a dependent clause is also called as subordinating clauses. Why? Because dependent clause needs to have a subordinating conjunction for it to be called as dependent clause. So we will be exploring it on the next slide, but the formula for it is complex sentence is equal to independent clause plus subordinating conjunction plus dependent clause. No, dependent clause, it always have a subordinating conjunction. So subordinating conjunctions, we have the after, although, as, because, before, how, if, once, since, then, that, though, till, until, when, where, whether, while. And also the relative pronouns, we have the what, which, who, whom, and who. So these are the examples of subordinating conjunctions and also the relative pronouns. So examples. Tom cried because the ball hit him. Our dog barks when she hears a noise. He left in a hurry after he got a phone call. So if you will be looking at the yellow part, Tom cried. This is a simple sentence. This is an independent clause. Our dog barks. This is an independent clause. He left in a hurry. This is also an independent clause. But when you look at the pink font color, because the ball hit him, it cannot be a standalone sentence. No, it cannot be a standalone sentence. It cannot be an independent. It is dependent. It needs a partner, right? It needs a partner because the ball hit him. Tom cried because the ball hit him. And one thing, dependent, that is dependent clause or subordinating clause because it has a subordinating conjunction because. And also the when she hears a noise, it is a relative pronoun when. After he got a phone call, we use the subordinating conjunction after. So that is the complex sentences. It has an independent and also a dependent clause or subordinating clause. So number 4, we have the compound complex sentences. Now, compound complex sentences contains 3 or more clauses. You can have 2 independent and at least 1 dependent clause. So the formula here of compound complex, of course, we have independent clause plus dependent clause or subordinating clause plus coordinating conjunction and plus independent clause. So it is just a mixture of compound sentence and also a complex sentence. Example, no? He left in a hurry after he got a phone call, but he came back 5 minutes later. So he left in a hurry is an independent clause. He came back 5 minutes later is also an independent clause. No? After he got a phone call is a dependent or subordinate clause, right? Because it cannot be a standalone sentence. Unlike on the yellow part, it can be an independent clause. It can be one sentence, and it is being connected by the coordinating conjunction but. He left in a hurry after he got a phone call, but he came back 5 minutes later. So Tom cried because the ball hit him, so I apologize immediately. So Tom cried is a standalone sentence. I apologize immediately is a standalone sentence. So we connect it by using the coordinating conjunction. So in the pink part, we have the because the ball hit him, it is a dependent clause. So that is the reason why Tom cried. So that is the 4 structures that we have in 4 types of sentence structures under the syntax. So again, a recap, we have the simple, we have the compound, we have the complex, and we have the complex, compound, complex, or that these are the 4. So on the next part, I will not be taking too much time, is the syntax variations and distinction. So not all people speak English in exactly the same way. No, if you'll be observing, even here in the Philippines, right? When we say Tagalog, we have different varieties of Tagalog. And we have different varieties of Tagalog in the Philippines. We have the Tagalog of Bulakenyo. We have the Tagalog of Batanggenyo. We have the Tagalog of from Mindoro, people from Mindoro. We have the Tagalog from Cebu, and it differs, right? It is the same dialect, but it differs from one place to another place. Same as this English, right? English is the global language, the international language that we have. So you should also expect, it will be a diverse one. It will be having a lot of variations, because not all people speak English in exactly the same way. So Douglas Biber distinguishes two main kinds of dialects. So we have the geographic dialects and also the social dialects, wherein geographic dialects are varieties associated with speakers living in a particular location, while social dialects are varieties associated with speakers belonging to a given demographic group, women versus men, or different social classes. So on this part, we'll be exploring social dialects, because social dialects, as we will be reading here, social dialects learned by people with common backgrounds, such as social class, profession, age group, or ethnic group, also influence the speaker's syntax. So social dialects plays a big part. This is a factor that influences speakers' syntax. So in social linguistics, a social dialect associated with a certain socioeconomic class, ethnic, or age group. It is a combination of the terms social or socioeconomic with dialect. In other words, it is not really the meaning of what you say that counts socially, but who you are when you say it. So if you will be observing, teachers do not speak English the same way as the farmers do, right? Teachers also, or different, for example, let's say attorney or lawyers do not speak English the same way as the tricycle drivers do, right? Because society, your class in the society, plays a big factor. Plays a big factor on the words that you are saying, right? In other words, here, it's not really the meaning of what you say that counts socially, but who you are when you say it. Right? For example, we are experiencing as a teacher, when you are communicating with someone on the streets outside, and they have an idea that you are a teacher. Sometimes they will be surprised by the words that you will be saying. That I can relate with that. Sometimes I use different words, and some people already knew that I am a teacher, and they will be surprised. Oh, you really say those words, right? They'll be asking me, that you really say those words, right? Because sometimes the society doesn't look at the actual words that you are saying, but they are looking at you as who you are in the society. Then they will be looking at the words that you will be saying. That's why they will be sometimes they will be looking at you not just on the words that you are saying, but who you are as a part of the society. So an example of socialect or social dialect, standard British English as a social. So the standard variety of a given language, British English tends to be the upper class socialect of a given central area or region. So thus, standard British English used to be the English of the upper classes, also called the Queen's English or public school English of the Southern, more particularly London area. So for example, standard English can be classified as a type of social English spoken by the well-educated. When we talk to someone who are speaking standard English, will be having clue that that person is a well-educated one. Because we have we are experiencing some people saying English words, English phrases, English sentences, not in a standard way. So when we meet someone who are speaking standard English, we will conclude, of course, that person is a well-educated one. So again, pardon for the background noise, classmates and Dr. Gordonas. So slang as a social dialect. Slang is a vernacular language of a particular group, such as youth, subculture, who they use slang in hip-hop when they want to sound more unique and completely different from people surrounding them. So slang is very common. We have the Filipino slangs here in the Philippines, but also we are also using American slangs. Now we have different terms. We have the goat. Among you is familiar in goat. Goat now doesn't refer to, when we talk about American slangs, it doesn't refer to an animal anymore. When we say GOAT, it pertains to an acronym. GOAT means greatest of all time, right? No, if you are a basketball fan, you will be hearing a lot of GOAT news. Who is the GOAT? Is it Michael Jordan? Is it Kobe Bryant? Or is it LeBron James? That's why you will be familiarized with the term GOAT. We have also the terms, the slangs, slay, the stan. Where's the T? No, when you hear the word T now, it's all about gossip, right? Where's the T? What's the T? Okay, that is under the slang as a social dialect. So according to Michael Adams, slang is not merely a lexical phenomenon, a type of word, but a linguistic practice rooted in social needs and behaviors. Again, slangs is socialect. It is rooted in social needs and behaviors, mostly the complementary needs to fit in and to stand out. So group per group, no, in a society, you want to fit in, you want to stand out. That is part of being in a group. You will be creating words, you will be creating terms, and later on it will be slangs. So for example, I can run up on him from behind the tree, jump right on him, and bobs your ankle, mission achieved. You will be asking, what's bobs your ankle? What is the term bobs your ankle? Right? But bobs your ankle, which means there you have it. That is a British slang. No, you will be rereading it. I can run up on him from behind the tree, jump right on him. There you have it. Mission achieved. So that is what the slang bobs your ankle mean. Last night was flop. I was supposed to go to a party with my friends, but they flopped on me. They are all such floppers. So this slang term flop means an event does not happen. No, nabulilyaso in Tagalog. Because a flopper is someone who refuses the plan at the last minute. So slangs allow people to become creative in the use. That is the purpose of slang. No, it promotes creativity in the use of language, and also people use slangs in order to communicate with each other informally because they are from the same region. Similarly, they can identify other members of their subculture immediately. Diba? In Filipino, we have slangs. We have the slangs inside the jail. No, they have different terms inside the jail. No, that is how you communicate informally in a certain group of people that you are with on a subculture. So jargon, last part, jargon is a language that is used by a particular group or profession. So again, we are familiar with this one. Jargon can be used to describe correctly technical language in a positive way, as well as describes language which is obscure, technical in a negative way. Jargon has its own vocabulary and it's widely used in an area of study, a specific career which share the same profession. So I have here an example. I will be reading it. A common dictum in allergy practice is that the patient's medical history is the primary diagnostic test. Laboratory studies, including skin and in vitro tests for specific immunoglobulin E or IgE antibodies, have relevance only when correlated with the patient's medical history. Furthermore, treatment should always be directed toward current symptomatology and not merely toward the results of specific allergy tests. So if you will be reading it, you will get confused if you are not in the medical field, right? Because there are certain terms, there are certain words being used here just in a medical field. It is not being used by a normal person outside the medical field. We have here in the sentences above, you can see that we have a medical jargon, whereas the meaning of dictum in plain English is a truth that is accepted in general. The laboratory is the lab. Of course, when we say laboratory, diba, we use lab often kasi sa laboratory, whereas symptomatology. Now, we can say symptoms, but then in medical field, in medical jargons, they use symptomatology, a patient set of symptoms. So, that is all for my part in our report. So I guess if I'm the last reporter, I guess we are having a fruitful day today. It's Sunday, yet we are still learning. No, this is a God's blessing, guys. This is a God's blessing that even in Sundays, in weekends, we are still learning. We are gaining something new. We're exploring new things, not just as a teacher, but also as a student. So before I leave, I'll be giving you a quote from Frank Smith, a psycholinguist. One language sets you in a corridor for life. Two languages open every door along the way. So learning one language, no, it will serve as a pathway for life. But learning two languages or more, it open every other opportunities. So that's all. That's all, guys. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Again, good afternoon. Good afternoon, classmates. Good afternoon, Dr. Gordonas. I guess we are having a good day. Goodbye and see you soon, everyone. Take care.